You weren't born to stay weak. You were born to dominate weakness. But before you can reign in life, you must first assassinate the version of yourself that keeps showing up uninvited. The version that settles, the version that shrinks, the version that delays, doubts, and disobeys the calling on your life. There's a weak you living inside, whispering lies. You're not good enough. You'll fail like last time. It's too late to start. But listen, that voice is not you. That's the counterfeit. That's the imposter. That's the default setting trying to override your divine design. And your job now is to kill that voice. Eliminate it at the root. Not coddle it, not manage it, but crucify it. Every day you delay growth, the weak you survives another day. And the longer it lives, the more powerful it becomes. Until one day, it becomes your identity. That's not your portion. You weren't created for comfort. You were created for conquest. Now let's get practical. Killing the weak you isn't emotional. It's intentional. It starts with choosing discipline over desire. You want ease? The weak you craves that. But the warrior wakes up when it hurts. The warrior invests when it's uncomfortable. The warrior speaks truth to himself when his mind is screaming lies. And hear me, you will not rebuild by accident. Nobody stumbles into strength. Nobody drifts into destiny. It's time to rebuild intentionally, brick by brick, thought by thought, habit by habit. And what's the foundation? Purpose, not passion, purpose. Passion is seasonal. Purpose is eternal. When you know why you exist, you stop negotiating with weakness. But let's go deeper. The warrior doesn't just fight for himself. He fights for legacy. He fights for those who can't fight for themselves. He builds so others can stand taller. So the rebuilt version of you, he's not just stronger. He's a servant leader. He's courageous and compassionate. He's wealthy and generous. He's tough and tender. That's the kind of warrior the world needs now more than ever. And let me tell you this. You won't rebuild alone. You've got divine DNA in you. You've got the breath of greatness in your lungs. You've got promises over your life that weakness can't cancel unless you let it. You weren't born to stay weak. You were born to dominate weakness. But before you can reign in life, you must first assassinate the version of yourself that keeps showing up uninvited. The version that settles, the version that shrinks, the version that delays, doubts, and disobeys, the calling on your life. There is a version of you that wakes up with no urgency, that procrastinates on purpose, that dreams big but acts small. That version isn't the real you. It's the programmed you, the one shaped by fear, failure, rejection, trauma, comparison, and conditioning. It's not the version designed by your creator. It's the one developed by culture and comfort. That weak version is not who you truly are. It's the one that was handed to you by life, and your job now is to reject it intentionally, violently, and permanently. The weak version of you will always try to defend its territory. It will speak with a voice that sounds like yours, but it only echoes fear. It says things like, "What if you fail? What will they think? This isn't realistic." But the truth is, those thoughts are not guidance. They are chains. And as long as you obey them, you remain bound to a level of life that you were never meant to settle in. The weak you is obsessed with comfort, but destiny is only revealed through discomfort. The weak you wants approval, but growth requires risk. The weak you waits for motivation, but purpose demands movement before feelings ever catch up. That version of you must be silenced, not once, but daily, repeatedly, aggressively. Killing the weak you is not about hating yourself. It's about honoring who you truly are. You cannot simultaneously protect your old patterns and pursue a new purpose. One must die for the other to live. And most people never experience transformation because they're still trying to keep the weak version of themselves comfortable. They feed it with excuses. They nurture it with distractions. They justify it with stories. But excuses don't protect you. They imprison you. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall that separates you from your calling. And the longer you allow the weak you to live, the more it controls your decisions, your emotions, your relationships, and your future. This is not a casual matter. It's life or death for your destiny. You're in a war of identity. And you win this war not by wishing, but by warring. You confront every lie with truth. You replace every passive habit with powerful action. You identify every place in your life where the weak you still rules, and you overthrow it with intention. If the weak you dominates your morning, you change your routine. If it dominates your relationships, you raise your standards. If it dominates your money, your time, your body, your mind, you stop negotiating. You declare war. You write your own rules because the weak you was never supposed to have authority in the first place. The weak you thrives in indecision. It loves delay. It feeds on doubt. It multiplies in confusion, but clarity cuts it. Discipline starves it. Conviction destroys it. You don't need more time. You need more resolve. You don't need more affirmation. You need more action. The version of you that's been hiding behind personality tests, waiting for perfect timing, blaming the economy, the past, your upbringing, that version has to be held accountable. You weren't made to repeat cycles. You were made to break them. You weren't made to tolerate mediocrity. You were made to disrupt it. The weak you doesn't want you to hear this right now. It wants you to scroll. It wants you to save it for later. But later is how the weak you survives. It's how your dreams die slowly. Every delay is a decision to empower the part of you that's trying to keep you small. You have to make a decision to stop living like a victim. Every day, people walk around carrying the weight of what happened to them, what didn't work out, who didn't support them, who left them, and who didn't believe in them. And the more they rehearse that story, the more they reinforce the identity of someone who is powerless. But what you rehearse, you reinforce. And what you reinforce becomes the lens through which you see the world, yourself, your future, your God, and your opportunities. The victim mindset doesn't just limit your actions. It destroys your authority. It convinces you that your outcomes are determined by others. It persuades you that you need rescue when what you really need is responsibility. There is no victory for the one who still blames. You cannot rebuild your life if you're still building your arguments about why you are stuck. The mindset of a warrior starts when you stop saying, look what they did, and you start asking, what am I going to do now? Responsibility is not blame. It's not about ignoring the hurt or pretending nothing happened. It's about taking back the pen and writing your next chapter. The moment you decide to stop giving other people, circumstances, and your past control over your future, you begin to tap into a version of power that most people never access. Because victims wait, but warriors move. Victims look for someone to fix it, but warriors decide they are the solution. Victims keep asking why, but warriors focus on how. How do I grow? How do I heal? How do I rise? You can't walk around rehearsing the pain and expect to produce. Your words shape your world. When you say you're broken, your mind agrees. When you say you can't do it, your creativity shuts down. When you declare it's impossible, your energy drains. You have to retrain your speech because what comes out of your mouth either reinforces the victim or strengthens the warrior. And the warrior refuses to let past events determine future potential. The warrior uses pain as fuel, not an excuse. The warrior sees rejection not as a wall, but as a redirection. The warrior interprets every setback as instruction, not destruction. Some people wear their past like armor, thinking it will protect them from being hurt again. But that armor is made of bitterness, fear, doubt, and regret. And instead of protecting, it weighs them down. It keeps them from moving forward. The warrior takes off that armor. The warrior understands that healing is part of rebuilding, but healing doesn't happen without decision. You have to decide to stop nursing your wounds like they are treasures. They are real, yes. They matter, yes, but they do not define you. You do not have to carry a victim badge for the rest of your life to prove you've been through something. The evidence of your healing is not in the retelling of the wound, it's in the rising from it. There comes a moment where you realize that freedom is a choice, not a feeling, not a result of time, not a gift from another person. It's a decision. And when you decide to stop blaming what you didn't get and start building with what you've got, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your clarity increases. Your courage strengthens. Because now, instead of using your story to excuse your stagnation, you're using it to fuel your elevation. You're no longer repeating what happened to you. You're rewriting what's possible through you. That's where real transformation starts, not in therapy, not in applause, not in revenge, but in responsibility. The moment you say, "This is mine to change," is the moment you take back your power. And that's when the victim dies and the warrior begins to rise from the ashes of excuses and into the light of accountability. Discipline is not a suggestion, it's a requirement. The difference between the life you dream of and the life you tolerate is discipline. Most people want the results of the warrior, but they don't want the lifestyle. They want to be respected, but they don't want to earn it daily. They want to be successful, but they won't submit to the structure. Discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's about doing what needs to be done long after the emotion you made the commitment in has faded. Anybody can work hard for a week. Anybody can post motivational quotes and show up when it's easy. But the warrior shows up when no one's watching. The warrior trains when it's boring. The warrior builds habits when the rest of the world is busy building excuses. Discipline is the weapon that kills inconsistency. It's the sword that slays procrastination. It's the shield that blocks distractions. Without discipline, your dreams are fantasies. Your goals are decorations. Your purpose is potential that never matures. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel. Discipline doesn't wait for the perfect day. Discipline builds while others wait. It moves forward while others hesitate. It executes while others overthink. And if you don't develop it, you will constantly be ruled by how you feel. And feelings are the most unreliable guide in life. They change with the weather. They shift with mood. They lie when it's time to stretch. And they will keep you a prisoner if you give them authority. The strongest people you know are not the ones with the most talent. They are the ones who trained when others got tired. They are the ones who showed up when they said no to distractions. They walked away from shortcuts. They stayed faithful to the process. That's what separates warriors from wishers. Wishers wait for motivation. Warriors are moved by mission. Discipline is about honoring the mission even when your emotions want to run. It's waking up early not because it feels good, but because it produces results. It's turning off the noise not because you're anti-fun, but because you're pro-focus. Most people lose not because they don't have vision, but because they don't have systems. They see the destination, but they ignore the daily steps. And when you ignore the steps, you trip over your own potential. Every day, you're either building strength or building regret. And regret doesn't show up all at once. It shows up slowly. It creeps in every time you scroll when you should be studying, every time you sleep in when you should be preparing, every time you make excuses instead of moves. That's how weakness grows. Quietly, subtly, consistently. And the only antidote to quiet weakness is loud discipline. Discipline speaks in action. Discipline declares, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway. Discipline gets up when comfort says, lay back down. Discipline is the declaration of maturity, the evidence of ownership, and the seed of transformation. You will never rise above the level of your routines. You can't expect a champion's reward with a casual schedule. The warrior builds habits that match the weight of the dream. You can't have championship goals and amateur habits. You can't talk like a king and live like a slave to your impulses. Every great warrior has scars, but behind those scars are patterns of discipline, patterns of preparation, patterns of sacrifice. The world may see the glory, but it's discipline that built the story. Every step you take that no one claps for is building a result that no one can deny. And if you want to rebuild your life like a warrior, discipline is not optional, it's essential. It's not something you visit, it's where you live. It becomes the default, the lifestyle, the standard. And the higher your standard, the stronger your structure. The stronger your structure, the greater your strength. And when strength becomes normal, weakness can no longer survive in your system. Fear has always been the gatekeeper of greatness. It doesn't always show up with shaking hands or a racing heart. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic, as hesitation, as being realistic. But make no mistake, it's fear. Fear tells you to wait until the timing is perfect. Fear says you're not ready. Fear reminds you of everything that went wrong last time. It doesn't want you to act. It wants you to analyze, second guess, delay, and eventually abandon the mission altogether. And most people don't lose because they tried and failed. They lose because they were afraid to try at all. They let fear become their guide, their filter, their counselor. They ask fear for permission before they move forward. But fear is not a counselor. It's a captor. It's not there to protect you. It's there to paralyze you. And the only way to defeat fear is with faith. Faith isn't just some spiritual word reserved for religious moments. Faith is the decision to move forward when everything in you wants to retreat. Faith is taking the first step without full visibility of the next 10. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear be the final voice. Every warrior has felt fear. The difference is they didn't stop. They felt it and moved anyway. They faced it and stepped forward because they understood that fear is a liar and that belief is the builder of new realities. The future belongs to the bold, not the perfect. It's not about having all the answers. It's about having the audacity to keep moving when most people would turn around. There is a power that comes from moving in faith. When you act in faith, doors open that logic cannot explain. Opportunities arise that strategy alone can't create. Faith activates provision, ideas, courage, and relationships that only reveal themselves to the person who dares to believe beyond what they can currently see. But it's not passive. Faith requires work. It's built through practice. It's a muscle that grows through use. You don't get strong in faith by sitting and waiting. You get strong in faith by walking, acting, showing up, even when your knees are shaking and your voice is uncertain. The battlefield of transformation is not only in the external world, it's within the mind, where fear and faith are constantly at war for dominance, and whichever one you feed will eventually win. Some people have trained themselves to feed fear. They constantly imagine the worst-case scenario. They rehearse the pain of possible rejection. They relive past failures as if they are prophecies of future outcomes. Their mind becomes a theater of defeat, and eventually their life mirrors the script they've been mentally rehearsing. But just as you can train fear, you can also train faith. You can choose to focus on what could go right. You can rehearse God's promises instead of people's opinions. You can meditate on progress instead of paralysis. Faith isn't a feeling that shows up on its own. It's a decision that you make over and over again until it becomes the dominant mindset. Faith doesn't make things easy, it makes them possible. It doesn't remove the mountain, it gives you the strength to climb it. And on the other side of that mountain is everything fear said you'd never reach. But you'll never experience it if you keep making fear your consultant. Stop asking fear for permission. Stop letting fear write the rules of your life. You have to decide which future you want to experience. The one fear builds or the one faith unlocks. Both are possible, but only one will take you where you're truly called to go. Faith will stretch you. It will call you into rooms you feel unqualified for. It will push you to give when you want to hold back, to speak when silence feels safer, to build when others are waiting. It's the foundation of the warrior's mindset, the inner fire that makes movement non-negotiable. Without it, talent doesn't matter. Strategy falls flat. Knowledge stays dormant. Because if you don't believe you can, you'll never act like you should. Rebuilding is not just about changing what you do, it's about changing who you are. So many people try to improve their habits while still holding on to the same identity that created the problem. They wake up earlier, they read books, they write goals, but underneath all the new actions is the same old self-perception. You can't rebuild like a warrior while thinking like a victim. You can't build a palace on the ruins of shame, fear, doubt, and limitation. If the foundation is faulty, everything you build will eventually fall. That's why true rebuilding starts with identity, not performance, not productivity, identity. Because you'll always act in alignment with who you believe you are. The mind will reject anything inconsistent with its dominant self-image. You can say you're disciplined, but if you still see yourself as lazy, eventually you'll sabotage your own progress. You can say you're confident, but if deep down you still believe you're inadequate, you'll shrink back when opportunity knocks. That's why transformation doesn't last when it's only behavior deep. Real change is identity deep. Rebuilding like a warrior means you must become someone new. You must decide that the old you is no longer in charge. The version of you that settles, that hesitates, that compromises, he's fired. He's not qualified for the level you're stepping into. And the new you, he's not just improved, he's different. He thinks differently, speaks differently, walks differently, plans differently, expects differently. You're not here to do a makeover. You're here to go through a metamorphosis. A caterpillar doesn't get wings by fixing its crawl. It has to enter the cocoon. It has to die to the old form. And in that hidden place, a new creature is formed. That's the kind of process real rebuilding demands. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely, it's quiet, but it's necessary. You don't get to skip it. You don't get to skip the confusion, the stripping away, the confronting of your limitations. You have to be willing to sit in the middle of the mess before the masterpiece emerges. And while you're in that process, you're not just shifting habits, you're replacing the entire framework of how you see yourself. Rebuilding also requires intention. You don't drift into strength. You don't randomly stumble into purpose. It takes clarity. You must decide who you want to become and then create environments that reinforce that identity. If you want to think like a warrior, you can't hang around people who normalize weakness. If you want to speak like a leader, you can't keep feeding on conversations filled with complaints and excuses. You must surround yourself with words, people, and practices that align with the version of you you're becoming. Your environment is either fertilizing your future or feeding your fear. Your routines are either reinforcing your identity or resisting it. And the more intentional you are, the more aligned your world becomes with your new nature. Rebuilding is also about releasing. You can't carry old weight into a new world. Some people try to step into greatness while dragging baggage from their past. Baggage of offense, guilt, bitterness, rejection. But you can't fight like a warrior while carrying the weight of wounds that were never meant to follow you into battle. You have to drop what doesn't serve you. Not because it wasn't real, but because it's no longer relevant to the next version of you. You can honor the past without being anchored to it. You can learn from it without living in it. The warrior rebuilds by choosing to be lighter, leaner, more focused, more aligned. He sharpens what matters and sheds what doesn't. The warrior doesn't just rebuild to survive. He rebuilds to lead, to inspire, to create, to multiply. And that kind of rebuilding can't be surface level. It must be rooted in the truth of who you now are. You're not fixing the old you, you're forming a new you. Not an upgrade, a transformation. And when your identity shifts, your destiny accelerates. What once felt hard now becomes automatic. What once intimidated you now excites you. Because when your identity changes, your capacity expands. Your decisions align, your future obeys your command. Rebuilding begins on the inside long before anyone sees the results on the outside. A true warrior doesn't just fight for himself. He builds so others can stand taller. He rises so others can believe it's possible. He breaks barriers so others can walk through the doors he once had to kick down. That's what separates a warrior from a mere achiever. Achievement is about what you gain. Being a warrior is about what you give. It's about recognizing that your life carries weight, your choices carry influence, and your transformation becomes a blueprint for others. Every sacrifice you make, every temptation you overcome, every fear you face is not just for you. It's for the people watching you, the people coming behind you, the people silently hoping someone will prove that breakthrough is possible. There's a reason why warriors lead with service. It's because self-centered strength is short-lived. It burns out. It collapses under pressure. But when you understand that your victory lifts others, you gain a different kind of stamina. You don't just show up for yourself. You show up for the version of your family that's counting on your breakthrough. You show up for the future generation that's waiting for a model of wholeness, discipline, excellence, and honor. You show up because your story is part of something bigger than your own convenience. And when that awareness hits you, selfishness dies. Excuses lose power. The cost becomes worth it because the impact becomes visible. The warrior mindset understands that strength must be stewarded. Power isn't given just for personal reward. It's a responsibility. It's a call to lead with integrity, to protect with wisdom, to speak with clarity, to give without resentment, to live with purpose. The stronger you become, the more you must watch your motives, because influence magnifies whatever's already in you. If pride is there, influence will multiply it. If bitterness is there, influence will spread it. But if purpose is there, if love is there, if vision is there, then your growth becomes a catalyst for transformation in everyone you touch. That's the weight of real strength. It's not measured in applause. It's measured in fruit. It's measured in who's better because you showed up, who healed because you endured, who believed because you refused to quit. The world is full of people who look strong on the outside but are fragile on the inside because they built success without foundation. They built platforms without principles. But the true warrior builds from within. He builds with depth, with clarity, with values that don't shift with opinion or pressure. And when he rebuilds, he doesn't rebuild alone. He rebuilds with a heart to raise others. He shares the tools, the truths, the trenches he had to fight through, not to impress, but to empower. He multiplies what he's mastered. He teaches what once tormented him. He leads not just with his wins, but with his wounds. Because the warrior understands that transparency is strength and authenticity unlocks transformation in others. To live like a warrior is to live with open eyes and an open heart. You no longer look at life as something happening to you, but as something happening through you. You become aware that every resource in your life is seed. Your time is seed, your wisdom is seed, your influence is seed, and seed is meant to be sown. It's meant to be invested, not hoarded. The warrior understands that what he hoards dies with him, but what he sows lives beyond him. Legacy is not what you leave behind, it's what you build into others while you're still alive. That's the mark of the rebuilt man, not just his resilience, but his reach. Not just his discipline, but his impact. Not just his results, but his ripple effect. A warrior never forgets that people are watching even when he's not speaking. His life is the loudest sermon. His actions are his message. His posture teaches others how to carry themselves through chaos. His response to pain teaches others how to suffer with dignity and rise with grace. The rebuilt warrior doesn't wait to be celebrated. He celebrates the growth in others. He lifts others without needing the spotlight. He speaks life when others are drowning in doubt, because he knows what it feels like to almost quit, to feel unseen, to wrestle with identity, and he chooses to be the example he once wished he had. You are not a mistake. You are not weak. You are not broken beyond repair. You are the architect of a new legacy, but to walk in that truth, you must first bury the version of yourself that was never built for the battles you're called to win. That weak version, the one driven by fear, excuses, blame, comfort, and hesitation, must die by your decision, not by default. You must declare war on the patterns that shrink you, the voices that lie to you, and the cycles that keep you bound. This isn't just about changing what you do. It's about changing who you are. Warriors aren't born in victory. They're forged in fire, in discomfort, in discipline, in faith that refuses to flinch. Your strength doesn't come from avoiding struggle. It comes from embracing it with conviction and transforming pain into purpose, failure into fuel, and doubt into dominance. You rebuild not just to rise, but to raise others. You rebuild with discipline, strategy, and a renewed identity anchored in truth, not trauma. You rebuild like a warrior who knows that every scar is proof that defeat tried, but purpose won. You are no longer living for applause. You are living on assignment.